My ex and I dated secretly for almost 2 years because he comes from a family where they all have arranged marriages, and the girls you date are usually not considered marriage material. His parents were friends with my uncle, who also share similar views, and they seemed to like me, so we thought if we could keep it a secret, his family would ask my uncle, parents, about a potential marriage between us anyway. Things didn't work out because my cousin caught us on a date and exposed the whole thing. His parents hated me from that day, and when he told them he wanted to marry me, they threatened to disown him if he went through with it. They started searching for potential brides for him and eventually found someone they wanted him to marry. I was devastated, but my mom said to me that if he wasn't willing to fight for us, he wasn't worth it anyway, and I was saving myself a lot of potential heartache by being married to someone so spineless. My ex suggested we continue seeing each other secretly, and he would marry the other girl for show, but that wasn't something I was willing to agree to. After he got married, I went no contact with him because he kept trying to convince me to be his mistress. I met my current fiancé 3 years ago. I thought my ex was a good boyfriend, but my fiancé has shown me I really accepted the bare minimum in my previous relationship. It's so nice to be with someone who doesn't treat you like a dirty secret and whose family are so welcoming and kind. I've officially been engaged for 3 months, but I only informed my extended family a month ago. I'm assuming they informed my ex, his family, because ever since, he has been attempting to sabotage my engagement. At first, he contacted me to beg me not to go through with my marriage, promising he would get a divorce and claiming he didn't care if his family disowned him or not. When I continued to ignore him, he threatened to harm himself. It got to the point where his parents and my uncle came to my parents to beg them to make me marry their son because he had actually tried to do it. His family, my ex, and my own uncle are now set on convincing my fiancé to leave me. They've made horrible lies up about me, including telling my fiancé's family I was having S with multiple men and that I've had at least 5 A's. They're also going after my fiancé and his father professionally. I responded to my ex when they continued to escalate and begged him to stop. He said he would if I met with him so he could have closure. I'm not sure if that's a good idea, but my fiancé wants me to agree and take him with me. How do I get him to leave me alone? If I do meet with him, how do I make him realize that our relationship was never as good as we thought it was? Get a lawyer and a restraining order. Go after your ex, his family, and your uncle for slander and defamation and attempted blackmail. Whatever you do not speak to your ex directly. Block him on everything. Stalkers take any form of communication as a sign that you are still actively engaging and want them. Warn your fiancés and future father-in-law's places of employment that you have a stalker ex that is trying to destroy your life and those connected to you. If possible, move. Change your phone number and email. Get a P.O. box and register any property or lease in the name of an LLC. Change banks. Anything you utilize while you're in a relationship with the ex that he knows about. Switch. Change cars. Take different routes to work. Read immediately Gavin de Becker's Gift of Fear. Do not listen to your fiancé about meeting up with him, even if he is there. This is a terrible idea. I am a single father and have been since my daughter was born. My daughter was born when I was 20, and her mother left after giving birth, and we spoke of how we wanted to raise our daughter, but she left due to cultural differences and her family's conservative views. I turned alcoholic, had no job, no motivation in life, and couldn't handle my wife leaving. We married without her family's knowledge. My family also disowned me when my daughter was born. My daughter is now 22 and studying out of the city. We had a rough time during her early years, however, we managed. I now am pretty well off. I'm good health-wise, and I stopped drinking. My daughter turned out great. She's the sweetest and kindest person ever. She has ambition, and she loves wholeheartedly. She has mild anxiety due to me being a duck-up when she was younger, but I believe she has grown from it, as I have. When my wife left, she told me she didn't know if she would come back, but had to go. I think it would be good to mention she was South Asian and I am white. Her family was pretty much against our relationship as soon as they found out. We tried to convince them and give them time, but it was impossible. We were together for 3 years, and I know it sounds foolish, even today, but I loved her with all my heart, and I gave up with trying to fill the hole after she left. When she left, her family did the typical, "Her father is sick. Come home and see him. You're his only daughter" stuff. Her dad was sick, but he was not as serious as they made him out to be. He got better, and he never let his daughter leave again. I never saw her again. They moved, changed their phones, and removed all forms of me getting in contact. But I tried everything. When my daughter turned 5, she contacted me. She told me her father is marrying her off, and she's trying to get out, but can't. They had restrictions on her even 5 years later. She said she was giving up and knew I would raise our daughter well, but she will always try to come home because home was where we were. I replied back and got a response from her brother a few months later with 50 swears and threats, saying my wife is dead. My daughter knows she left because her family never wanted us to be together and died a few years later. My daughter used to cry for her. She stopped asking questions about her mother completely. We don't talk about her often. Anyway, I've been alone since she left. I tried dating again when I turned 30, but it didn't work out. After so many failed attempts, I gave up and just lived life single, raising my daughter and trying to secure her future. My wife? Is she even still my wife? I don't know. Contacted me last week. Said she's in New York and she's divorced and has no children. She still loves me and wants to meet our daughter. Her brother lied. She holds a special part in my life still, I can't lie, but I just don't know how to react. It's been 22 years. I responded to her and we talked casually about life. She said she understands if we don't want to meet her and would never force the interaction, just to think about it. As soon as the lockdown is over, she is going to return to England. I know I have to tell my daughter that her mother is still alive and she wants to meet her. Whether my daughter does or doesn't is her decision. She's old enough for this. But I can't wrap my head around this. My wife is alive. I love her, but she's probably a different woman now, so I love the wife I had 20 years ago. I don't know her anymore. I'm so confused, and I don't know how to bring it up to my daughter. She is currently stressed with exams, so maybe I should wait. How do I go about this, rightfully, by my daughter? Before you make any kind of decision, you absolutely have to be sure this woman is who she says she is. So many lies have been told. Who knows if this is another one? Don't see her, at least right now. You need counseling before you are in any kind of healthy mindset to see or talk to her at all. You thought she was dead and have mourned her for 2 decades, only to suddenly find out she is alive and well. That would duck up anyone's head and emotions. A counselor can also help guide you to the least damaging way to tell your daughter, which you don't have to do immediately, but you also don't want to wait so long that she feels deceived. If she notices something is wrong before you tell her, explain that you are going through some emotional stuff right now and working with a counselor, and that you want to talk to her about it but you just aren't ready yet. That lets her know that you are physically okay, because you being sick in some way would probably be her first thought and biggest fear, and also that you didn't intend to hide anything from her, but you just need a little time. Also, you might want to see a lawyer about that marriage. You might well still be married. Growing up, my parents were obsessed with money, and even though they couldn't keep down jobs, my mother was constantly getting new retail jobs and quitting because it was too stressful, while my dad just kept getting fired. My older sister and I had to work as soon as possible. When we were both 12, we had jobs as gold caddies and gave our parents our pay. That wasn't much, but as soon as we turned 16, they demanded that we both get full-time jobs on top of school. They told us that half of our paychecks went to the family and that they would give the rest of our earnings as an allowance as needed. Even though my sister and I would work over 40 hours a week, we both had 2 jobs. We couldn't afford work or school clothes because our parents said it wasn't in the budget. It came to a head when they started going to marriage counseling and began to have date nights on our dime. We also were not allowed to drive, so they took us where we needed to go. My sister left home after she graduated high school and joined the Navy. She also told our parents to shove it when they asked for her paycheck before she left as living expenses. They disowned her and refused to have any contact. We would speak through letters that she would write me and send to her friend's house. Since I was the only one with a real income and pretty much brainwashed by them, my parents told me that I would need to increase my hours, so I did what they said. When I was 17, I worked for 5 hours every morning at a donut shop before school, went to class, then worked a fast food job when class was out, and double shifts over the weekend. My grades were crap, so my dad had the brilliant idea that I drop out and work full-time at both places. I regret doing that every day, and when my sister found out half a year later, she was livid and wanted me to live with her. When I told them I was moving out, they begged me to stay, and my dad even cried and told me I was the only one keeping our family off the street, and that my sister just wanted to ruin everything. After I left, they disowned me as well when I told them I couldn't send them money. It was hard for a while, but my sister and her husband let me live with them rent-free as long as I studied for my GED and helped out around the house. Years later, my life is much better. I have my GED, I'm an assistant manager at my job. I take a couple online courses and my own apartment with my partner and 2-year-old daughter. 2 nights ago, I was mindlessly browsing Facebook when I got a message from a shared account that belonged to my parents. They don't even look like the same people that I grew up with. My mom works at a church while my dad works for the city they live in as a groundskeeper. They told me that they were sorry for the way they treated my sister and I growing up, that they were terrible parents. I agree with that. And that they will have to live with what they did for the rest of their lives. They invited me to go out to lunch with them and they want me to bring my family with me if I wish. I called my sister and she got the same message from them, along with a friend of theirs telling her how they are changed people who deserve a second chance. Right now, I am just seeing red and can't even think straight. I want to tell them to duck off, but at the same time, I want to see them face to face and get an explanation. I'm a parent now, and I can't even imagine making my kid quit school to support me. Some outside opinions would be great. First off, if you do see them, I would advise against taking your children with you. They have to earn the privilege of meeting them. No children near them. How they treated you and your sister is completely deplorable, just absolutely insane. You have to be prepared that if you do meet them, it might just lead right back into the "we need some money to help with the bills," or to get this item, or to cover this. I wouldn't put hopes on an explanation that actually makes sense, or that you can rationalize. Obviously, this is going to be a very personal choice. Just be careful. My wife and I separated when my son was 7. It was a tough time, and we both got split custody. When my son was 10, he started making tantrums, and that's when our relationship began to fail. I tried everything, including therapy, but my son wouldn't budge. I also got remarried during this time. So did my ex-wife. He gained some new step-siblings and half-siblings. He really enjoyed spending time with his step-siblings and didn't like his half-siblings. I tried hard to make him want to stay, but at the age of 14, his mother got full custody. I believe she has been shaping him up for this and always fed him negativity about me. It's been 4 years now, and I've decided to use my time and energy on my current family instead of chasing after my son. I've left the door open for communication. My son is going to university this summer and asked me to pay. I felt I was being used like an ATM and told him we didn't have a relationship and it wasn't fair for him to expect me to pay. His mom called me and called me a failure as a father. Seems like he got a majority scholarship and his stepdad is going to pay for it. My son called me to tell me that his stepfather would be paying and that he wanted to legally adopt him and take his last name. I mean, I know it's pretty moot, but is this relationship salvageable, or do I no longer have a son? Maybe an unpopular opinion, but here it is. I'm not saying you should pay for his university, but it seems to me that you expected a young teenager to come to you and resent him for not doing that. You were the adult in this situation, and you kind of failed him. At 10 and 14, you don't always react in the most logical way. I call BS on the people who said he made his choices. Really? You left the door open for communication to a teenager. Did you see him at all? Took time one-on-one with him every week? Told him that even if he lived full-time with his mother, you still wanted to see him? You totally failed at keeping a relationship with him, and that's why he's considering his stepfather his real father. Nothing else.